combo. So today, mostly the equations that I'll talk about are ones that are basic functions. That's why it's important that you recognize them. I was glad that some of you said things like absolute value x cubed and what have you. So first of all, my questions for this first set are, how is the graph related to y equals x squared? I know you have the use of a graphing calculator, and I know you have the use of Desmus, and that I want you to move towards, maybe from Algebra 1 or Algebra 2 you relied on those things to tell you the transformation. I want you to use it at some point maybe as a check, but I want you to know from the equation how we get that. So I'm going to just give you a few with x squared, and then we'll do a couple other graphs. So how about x plus 1 squared? Make sure it's in parentheses. And then I'm going to have you do x squared minus 5. And then 50 minus x quantity squared. Okay. So in the first one, I had x squared, and now it's x plus 1 squared. Okay. So if I'm looking at my transformations, this is inside the function, was replaced with x plus something. So what should be the result of the graph then? Yeah, so this is moving left 1. So left by 1. Okay. Go ahead and see what you think this one is. So x squared minus 5. There's no parentheses, okay? This means?
Down 5.
Down 5. Okay, now let's say you run across something like this. My suggestion is you don't leave it like this. Some of you are like, oh, I know it already, okay? My suggestion is you write the x term first. So isn't this the same as negative x plus 50 squared? Okay. All right, so quick thing about reflections and shifts in the same direction. If you reflect over well, let me just tell you this, and this is where when you do want to check your graph when you're done. Let's say I took something and I first moved it right, and then I reflected it over. Where would it end up? Okay, I'll say it again. Focus. I moved something right. It's over here now. And now I reflect it. Now where is it? Left. Okay. What if I moved something left first and then moved it? Do you see how the order matters then when you're dealing with the y-axis? Okay, and remember that x is a liar. So only when you're dealing with two things in the parentheses, you're going to want to start here first, at the end first, because you have to get the order right too. So what would plus 50, I'm going to start at the back, give me left 50, and then I replace x with negative x. That means it's then reflected over the y-axis. So if you were looking at a picture of the graph, I gave you this one on purpose because you'd have to zoom way out to look at this one. This is x squared, okay? Starts right here. First I moved it left, now it's over here where my pen is. And then I reflect over the y-axis. Where is the vertex of this thing really going to be? Yeah, it's going to be at positive 50, 0. Okay, so just be careful of the order. Only with two things like that in the parentheses is when you have to be careful of that order, okay? All right. How do you feel about that?
Fine.
Me. How about let's do x cubed. Let's do some with x cubed. So I'm going to write 0.25 x cubed, no parentheses. And then I'm going to write 4x in a parentheses cubed. And then x over 3 parentheses cubed. I want you to think about it. I'm not you to make your guesses in your head. I think horizontals are hard. Okay. No parentheses. Let's start with that one. There's no parentheses. That means it's out in front. And when it's out in front, it's vertical. Yay, because it's vertical, then I don't have to like think so hard. It's what you would think it would be. What would happen if you multiplied something by 0.25? Would it get bigger or smaller?
Smaller.
Smaller. So it's out in front, makes it vertical, and it's a vertical compression of 0.25 or 1/4, right?
Yeah.
Can you see orange if I write orange?
No.
You can't see that?
Oh, yes.
Don't like that? Okay, now let's just look at the next two. The next two, this is where you're having your guesses. Hey, would you share your guess with somebody around you?
Switch by 4.
It's gotta be a line, right?
Maybe probably.
Vertical. Wait, which one are we doing?
We're-
X over 3?
This one, do g of x.
No answer.
Okay, first of all, do you see how it's inside?
Yep.
Which makes it,
A line.
yes, and it makes it horizontal, okay?
Oh.
Okay, so when it's inside, it's gonna make it, we're gonna look at it as horizontal. And when we're done with this one, I'm gonna really blow some of your minds up a little bit. And some of you aren't gonna like that, and some are gonna think it's cool, so I'll let you decide. So you're right, X is a liar. So in your head, hopefully maybe you can just figure this out. That means if this is 4 times, what's happening is this really is compressing and making it 4 times as small, but the way that we write that is not compression of 4, because that's kind of an oxymoron, okay? We would write this as a compression of, what's the reciprocal of 4? 1/4. So this is horizontal compression of 1/4. Some people just like, if you like to memorize things, some people always say, hey, I figure out what it is and I take the reciprocal of it every time, and then that tells them if it's a shrink or compression or stretch. Did anyone get it right?
No.
I got horizontal right.
Okay. Well, now that we did that, what do you think this one would be? Would you share what you think it would be with somebody around you?
You want horizontal or vertical?
Horizontal.
Is it shrink or stretch?
Does it? No fraction.
What if it's less than 1 then?
These mean the same thing, by the way, if that helps you.
It's less than 1. Shrink.
Yeah, but she just said friggin' fractions.
This one says shrink if it's less than 1.
If it's divided by
divide-
a number less than
No,
1.
you're right.
I know, that's where it gets confusing. It's even confusing to try to describe it.
Why are whole numbers shrinks and not whole numbers? Makes no sense.
What?
You're wrong.
Because what this is this is really multiplying all of the x coordinates by 1/4. And when you multiply the x coordinates by 1/4, that makes them shrink or compress.
So you'd be multiplying x by 3 then?
Yes, so what's that gonna do?
Stretch.
Yes, horizontal stretch. All right, this is a horizontal stretch of 3. Okay, now if you had an actual function with ordered pairs, what you would actually do is you'd go in and you'd take your x coordinates and you'd multiply them all by 3. Whereas if you were doing this one, you would go in and you take your x coordinates and you multiply them by 1/4. What do you think this one would do to ordered pairs? Multiply which coordinate? The y coordinate by 0.25. Okay.